So we're going to talk about speaking up without starting a fight, which is a very crucial skill, as I'm sure you all already agree. So we don't need to talk about the why. But so let me first cover. There's been some previous webinars on negotiation skills, the circle of health and the three types of boundaries, and default conflict style and how to change it. And those are on my YouTube channel, which is just named Marcy Holmes very creatively. So you can find those. And then this will also be posted there as a replay with just me. Don't worry, you won't be on my video, confidential, whoever attends my things. And the key takeaway that I want to share, I always start with this, is that speaking up effectively is much more about the obstacles than it is the skills. So we will talk about the skills, but we're going to spend more time on the obstacles. And one of the things that we say is that anyone can teach you skills, but we work with the part of you that doesn't care about connection. In that moment when we are feeling activated or frustrated or hurt, connecting with the other person is kind of the least priority, and that's the challenge. And so that's the challenge we have to overcome in order to implement the skill and the technique that I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so what are those obstacles? And like I mentioned, the smallest one, but it does exist, is if you've never had this modeled or taught to you, you've never practiced it, or it's just not a habit yet, that is a challenge. It's just the smallest one, but it is a challenge. The next obstacle that comes up a lot is the idea of people won't behave unless they have an incentive. So they either need to be bribed or punished into good behavior. And so if we speak lovingly to someone who was just acting like a jerk, that we're somehow like not doing right by the universe because we need to punish them. And a lot of us we're all raised in the same culture. On this call, a lot of us have that punishment mindset of like, even with ourselves, like if I let myself off the hook, I'm going to act like an even bigger jerk. And so we have to learn to treat ourselves with less like incentive perspective, but also it gets in the way of us giving feedback or speaking up because we're like, if I say this nicely, I'm not holding them accountable. The next one is vulnerability. When we pause and we get into that thing of what do I need? What am I feeling? What am I making up? And then share it with the other person. That is very vulnerable. You're opening up parts of yourself to criticism or disappointment, or sometimes it just feels unsafe, even if there's nothing specific that we fear. That vulnerability takes a ton of bravery. And so a lot of times we would rather complain or criticize than speak up effectively because it feels less vulnerable. Fairness is another one. It's just like, it takes a lot of effort to stop, pause, and do a new skill than it does to just let whatever instinctually comes out of your mouth come out. And sometimes it feels unfair for us to put in that much effort if our partner isn't meeting us halfway or isn't putting as much effort in as we feel like they should. And so there's this issue of fairness, like they don't deserve me to put this extra effort in. And then the last one is just the discomfort and awkwardness. Whenever you're doing something new, you're not going to do it perfectly right away. And so it can be really hard to try a new skill, try a new method, and then feel like you're failing at it or just this feels weird. And so that is actually a really big obstacle, even if none of the other things apply in the situation. So how do we overcome those? When it comes to the lack of skill or habit, that's the simplest one. We have to learn and practice. And I always advocate practicing in like a low stake situation. Find things to speak up or give feedback about that are not a big deal. They're not as charged. If we can practice giving feedback about the little things, it's going to help us develop the skill and develop the habit for the bigger things. The next one, when it comes to punishment, recognizing that idea of people won't behave unless we hold them accountable, mentality, unless, and like you can hold people accountable in a loving way. So I don't love the way I said that, but unless we make them afraid of a punishment, they're not going to do what we need them to do. When we recognize that, then we can just stop and be like, no, people behave when they are feeling their best, when they feel safe and supported to do so. For people to change, they need enough stress and enough safety in balance. So if we just stress them out, they're not going to change. But we don't also want to let them get away with treating us in a way that we don't like to be treated. And so we have to balance that out by speaking lovingly, but do speak up. On the vulnerability side, the best way to get over that is to recognize it and then practice a fierce self-compassion. So like, I have my back no matter what happens. I'm not going to give myself crap about this. I'm going to know that I'm there sticking up for me. And I am a good and lovable person no matter how the other person behaves. So that internal self-worth, where we're not relying on somebody else's behavior, actions, or beliefs so that we can feel good about ourselves. That is one that most people I know are working on all the time, is getting away from external self-worth to internal self-worth. That's what enables you to be more vulnerable. And fierce self-compassion has so many benefits. Just knowing that other people are going through the same thing I'm going through. There's nothing uniquely wrong with me, and I am still a good person. Like, I'm still okay. I still deserve to be here. Whatever phrase resonates with you when it comes to self-worth, reminding yourself that, like, I made a mistake and I'm a good person, that and is so important. That is what internal self-worth looks like. So, like, I have an 11-year-old. If I lose my patience with him and I'm ruder than I want to be, that's not the kind of mom I want to be. So I did make a mistake, and I'm still a good mom and I'm still a good person, even though I made that mistake. So those holding those two things in tandem is how we get through the vulnerability so that we can show up. The fairness part is actually be a little bit more selfish. How's the best way for me to get what I want? So the reason you're giving feedback is you want someone else to see and hear you or change their behavior. What is the most effective way to be seen and heard is going to be using an effective feedback style. What is the most effective way to get the behavior changed? It's going to be to make somebody a win if they do change their behavior. So if you're just focused on, this is what's fair for me, this is what's going to get me what I want, it's easier to feel like it's okay that I'm putting in a little more effort than they are, because it's in service of what I want. And then with the discomfort and awkwardness, it goes back to practice. Recognize that it's a new skill. You will get better over time. We say that things move from a idea to a skill to a state to a trait. So at the beginning, it's really awkward. You have to practice it. It becomes a practice. Like, if you've ever done meditation, when you first start, it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing or if I'm doing it right. And over time, you develop a meditation practice or a yoga practice, and it becomes something that you're working on. You haven't mastered it, but it becomes a normal thing for you to be doing. Then it becomes a state that you can access. You're not there all the time, but you can get into that state of mind fairly easily. And then finally, it becomes a personality trait. You can change your neural wiring so that you are somebody who responds in this way. So recognizing that that's always the progression from a skill to a trait, then it takes some of the discomfort and awkwardness out of it, because it's just like, oh yeah, this is actually supposed to be a little bit clumsy. So now getting into the actual skill. And so the method that I teach is the feedback wheel. It's developed from Terry Real. So the first is asking if it's a good time. This does two things. One, it's asking for consent, which is always helpful. But two, it's giving you and your partner a chance to put your boundaries up, to hear more maturely in the conversation what needs to be said. So everything that goes in and out of your boundary has to be translated into something that's useful for you or thrown in the junk mail pile. So that consent step, is this a good time to talk, is really helpful. Or are you open to hearing some feedback right now? Or when can you? So if they can't just say, no, I never want to hear from you. You ask, when is a good time? Then you factually state what happened. What would someone with a video camera who had no opinions whatsoever on the situation say happened when you said these exact words, when you did this exact thing, and treat it as neutral and factual as possible. I made up that you don't care about me. I made up that you completely forgot about what we had talked about. So you own that you have a story, that you have a perspective, and then that made me feel. So your actions didn't make me feel bad, but my story definitely did, and your actions contributed to that story. So I felt unhappy. I felt ignored. I felt really disappointed, whatever your feelings are. And then you make a request that will make you feel better. So it would be great if you could put a reminder on your calendar so this doesn't happen again, or brainstorm a solution with me that works for both of us. Whatever your request is, it needs to be something where you honestly will feel better if they do it, because you don't want to set your partner up for failure when you're giving them feedback. And then lastly, offer to support them. So if your partner has ADHD and they have time blindness, they're not just going to magically always get home when they said they were going to, or magically remember things that they have trouble remembering. They're going to need your support, and you're going to work together as a team to get everybody's needs met. This isn't mean always carrying the mental and emotional load, but there's a difference between brainstorming a strategy together and mutually supporting each other than setting someone up for failure or taking it on yourself. So you don't want to overfunction, but you want to be a team. You want to be a partnership. This is a picture I found on the Google image search because I actually thought that someone besides Terry Real originated the feedback wheel, and I was looking for their name to give them credit. But I really liked how this one sums it up and why they call it a wheel. So what I saw or heard without interpretation or judgment, what I made up about it, how I feel, and what I need now. So you focus on what you need to happen so that you guys can strategize together as a team to make those needs get met, help those needs get met. So we don't always do a formal process where we ask for consent or we have all of those steps, but there's other types of feedback we can give. So if your partner does something that you like or did in the past and they haven't, you can remind them of, I love it when you do this, or how could we accomplish this together? It would be so wonderful if. So whatever the phrasing you use, whatever resonates with you, the goal is that your partner is the hero in this story. And like I said, we generally default to complaints. This is translating any complaint into a wish or a request. And then that way, again, they get to be the hero of the story if they meet it, and you both get to feel happy about it. You got your need met. They didn't feel like a kicked dog when they're hearing the feedback. And again, this is to your benefit because most people, after about 30 seconds of unloving content, even delivered in the most skillful way possible, they're going to be shutting down and not really hearing it anymore. So the more efficiently you can communicate what you need to them and the more positively you can, the more your message is going to get through. And that's true no matter how mature your partner is. So when we're on the receiving side, we need to try to translate complaints into requests. If someone is trying to give me feedback, I try to listen really hard for the wish or the unmet need behind the complaint so that I can address what is relevant to me and leave the messy part outside my boundary. So these are just some phrases you could use, like what would it take to make this happen? So that you're starting the conversation with the assumption that both of your needs are going to get met as a partnership. And then for the complaints, I don't actually like when this happens. And that, like that phrasing, that actually, it takes some of the heat out of, like, it's normal that you didn't know this. Please stop. A lot of times we will talk too much when we're trying to give negative feedback. Just being very clear of like, I need you to stop doing this. And then don't say anything else. That gives them time to digest it and hear it. The more words you add after that, the more you are more likely to get into an argument. If you are in an argument, you can just call out, this isn't productive right now. Can we take a break and come back to this? Put a time frame on it. If you're busy the rest of the day, don't say you're going to come back to it today, but look at your calendar or look at what your schedule looks like and make a time to come back to it. But don't just keep fighting. If you're having an argument, if it's not going well, this isn't productive. Let's take a break and come back to it. That is one of the best types of feedback you can give because it lets them know that you do want to resolve it with them and you don't want to fight. Okay, that's my feedback. We're going to do Q&A in a second. Before we get to that, I want to share next month, I'm going to be talking about the internal self-worth, how to stop outsourcing it, and ways I work with people. If you are interested in working with me, I offer a free introductory section. I work with individuals and couples, so you don't have to come in with the other party. And when I say couples, I've worked with mother-daughter or business partners or siblings, so it's not always like your romantic partner. And then I have a small group program. And if you're interested in that, I have a wait list. And as soon as I get enough people on the wait list, we will schedule it.